Hello, how are you? So I
Hello,
have to tell
everybody.
you, I have to tell you, you can tell that I am not feeling well, and it's been 2 weeks because I did the countdown and then I freaked out because I forgot the intro was coming after. I completely forgot how everything worked. Anyway, how
Oh
are
boy.
you?
Oh, I am doing great. How are you?
I'm lovely, surviving and trying to come back from the dead of the
At least you're
flu.
surviving. At least you're surviving.
I'm trying. I'm trying. I sound like a man, but it's okay. We're going to get through it. So I'm just
That's
going
right.
to apologize. If I randomly mute myself, it's because I'm dying on this end. So you just run with it and do whatever you want to do
Hey,
because
I'll do what
I
needs to
may
be
just
done. Don't worry.
die. Yeah, you might have to
Well,
call me and tell me, hey, she died. I need help.
like, Nate, hop on real quick, real quick.
Ashley's dead. She's
Uh,
done. She had a coughing fit. She's dead. Um,
uh,
no, okay. So I have to tell you, I'm really excited about this case because this case is one that you brought to us, and
I
it's
did.
really interesting. It's confusing, and it's weird. So I don't know if you want to get into it because I know this is a case that like you know a lot about.
Sure.
It's just an odd case.
It is. And so this case has been ongoing since 2012. Now, we're, what's that, 13, 12, 13 years now that this person has been missing. So I guess we'll jump right into say that tonight we're going to focus on Colin Gillis. Uh, and I got into this case, and I actually followed along with it when it happened, because there is a forum that, if anyone is a fan of true crime, probably knows about it. It's called Web Sleuth. It's a forum for missing people. You can go on there and discuss things, especially if you're from the area, kind of gives people a perspective of everything going on. And it's people from all over the world in here. So I came across it when I was browsing web sleuths and noticed that it actually is a New York State case. It's from the Adirondack area, Tupper Lake. So it is a very strange case. So basically, I'll give a rundown here. We have Colin, who is home from college on a break, and it's wintertime. And 2012, it's beginning of March. I believe it's around like March 9th or 10th, I believe. I think he came home on that Friday on March 9th, and then he decides Saturday night into Sunday to go to a party with a bunch of friends. Well, they didn't really know anybody at this party, and besides his friends that went with him. And they decide to leave. Something happens at this party. There's some type of altercation, and his friends decide to leave, but he decides to stay. No one's really sure why. He just decides to stay. So fast forward through the night to about 1:30 in the morning. He leaves, and he leaves the party wearing basically nothing. He had like a short sleeve shirt on. I think he was carrying a jacket with him, and he decides to walk home on a cold March night.
Yeah, it's cold in New York
It,
in
yeah,
March.
especially the Adirondacks because it's a higher elevation too. Um, I've been to Tupper Lake before, and I can say that like March, there's snow, there's ice, there's cold. So it's kind of odd. It might be a theory that maybe he had too much to drink and was just the alcohol warmth that you get from drinking, and maybe that's why he wasn't wearing a heavy coat or anything like that.
Yeah, we've
So
all walked from the bar like that. Yeah.
there's maybe a few times, but certainly wasn't. I mean, it certainly wasn't as long as this walk would have been. I mean, it's a pretty good distance from this party to back to his house, and it's a wooded area walking through. So he's walking through, and one car spots him walking along the highway. Doesn't do anything, just drives by. Then there's supposedly and reportedly a second car that sees him that drives by twice. Well, Colin never makes it home from
Now,
walking.
I'm going to try to say this without coughing. So
Sure.
I did see in one of the things that you had sent me, I think, is the very first car was like an older man. And he said
Yep.
that he did drive and he saw him and he did see him with no coat and was like, that's kind of weird. And he said that he went to a police station that wasn't like too far away and told them like, hey, there's this guy walking down the road. He has no, or there's a kid. He has no coat. And the police officer, I watched an interview that he had went down the road to drive to like look for him. And by the time he drove the road looking for him, he was already gone.
Correct. So then I believe after that is when the second car comes forward and said that they saw him also walking, but didn't stop or anything or supposedly interact with him. And they drove by and that was it. And then nothing else happened. Well, it said he never makes it home. So somewhere from that party to his house, walking along, and I forget the exact street name. It's in there, but it's a
It's
highway,
like
wooded,
yeah,
through the
route
woods.
something.
Yeah, it was like a county route
Yeah.
through Tupper. Like, so they start looking for him. His family's worried, obviously. I would be, and
Yeah.
no one can find any sign of him for I think it's for a while too before they ever find anything of his. But eventually they do find two items of his further off the road in the woods. I know one was his license they found, which I kind of find a little strange to just find a license and not a wallet,
Yeah.
right? I mean, thinking of
Well, and
not,
here's the thing that's like kind of interesting to me too is they did say that he walked from that party, and I looked up a map of like the area, and the house was like way down this like back wooded road, and he walked all the way up, and it dead ends, so like it would dead end, and the road kind of runs this way, and they said that to go home he would have had to turn left, I believe, but instead he turned right. And I know they thought that was a little suspicious. And I do kind of wonder, like, did alcohol have a play in that? Because he was, I think, like 18. So, when you're 18, people are doing all kinds of crazy things. And not that
of
I'm going to
course.
say he did, but yeah, they said that he like turned the opposite way. And then how you just mentioned that all they found, like that license, it's weird to me that a cop drove down the road looking for him because what's the first thing a cop looks for? They always ask for your license. So
Yeah,
which would give him a reason to pull that out of his wallet. I mean, I'm
yeah.
not
I
accusing
mean,
him of anything. I'm just saying it's weird the way that some of these things are lining up.
yeah, and it's kind of interesting because I mean the only other notion in my brain about it could be that all he had carrying in his pocket was his license. Maybe he didn't have a wallet, or he didn't take his wallet out with him that night because he knew he was going to a party. So all he wanted on him was his license in case something happened. That is a complete possibility.
Yeah, that
Um,
makes sense. I've done that before.
yeah, I mean, I think we all have just don't need my wallet tonight. I'll just take my license, and in case I don't want to lose my wallet. I don't want to do this or
What
that.
was what was that second item that they found?
So I'm easily trying to remember what it was, but I think it was, if I remember, I think it was a bowl,
Yeah, I
like
think so. I was
drug
gonna say a pipe,
drug
but yeah,
paraphernalia, we'll say.
yeah.
Um,
Which might
so
play into why he turn the wrong way too. If he was drunk and if it was a bowl and maybe he was high, maybe he
Could be.
just got turned around and didn't realize which direction he was walking.
And yeah, and that's a lot of like where they first thought it was going to go is that he's out walking drunk or high or whatever, and he doesn't have a coat on, or it's a very light coat, or he's holding onto it and he's not wearing it, and it's cold. So your first thing is like maybe he started to get hypothermia.
Yeah.
Maybe that sets in, and he, there's reports when people get hypothermia, they start feeling warm,
Yeah.
and they start removing items of clothing. I remember a while ago reading a book about some people that were hiking up Everest, and they got hypothermia and removed their clothes, and they found them all without clothing, frozen. Uh, so, is that a possibility? Sure.
Yeah.
But then I have to wonder, they combed those woods where he was cited, where they found his license and the bowl, and there was no sign of him.
Which is crazy to me. Because it's like, yeah, like what I had read too was that they like it was like going with a fine tooth comb. Like they
Yep.
made like human chains and they had like heat radars and they checked everything and they found nothing. Because I know when I was first reading about it, I thought, okay, maybe he was getting cold, he passed out, stumbled into the woods, and in New York you guys have bears and all kinds of animals. I'm like, maybe an animal
Yep.
had gotten home, but animals aren't going to eat bones and teeth
Well, yeah.
and it wasn't like it had been 30 days. Like his family started this search like within hours of him not coming home. I think it was like 24 hours, and they started talking about how he was a missing person. They filed the report and they started searching so that they found nothing. And they even said that there was like no skid marks on the road. There was nothing.
Yeah.
The only thing they saw was like a little bit of mud had kind of been like kind of mushed where they
Yeah.
found his belongings. So, but they couldn't tell if he slipped or if it was like a struggle. But
Yeah.
that one car, and this is the thing that keeps sticking out in my head. I know we had a conversation about it, but
Yeah.
that car that drove by twice, he was like an acquaintance, right?
So they were not friends, from my understanding and all my information gathering, but they knew of each other.
Okay.
Here's the thing too. This person in this car was at the party and supposedly is who he got in an altercation with. A
Oh,
party.
so it's the same person?
Correct.
Oh, they left that out. They left that out of the one article I read. Oh, well, that kind of changes things.
It kind of does, doesn't it?
It does
No,
because it's weird
it
that
is. No.
all those
A lot
people from
of
the party,
people.
nobody saw him but that person.
Yes, and that's the thing. So they got in some type of altercation at the party, which is why Colin left and decided to walk home.
Yeah.
No one has really said what the altercation was. No one at the party, as far as my information has found, has actually said what it was about. However, I know it wasn't friendly.
Yeah.
So now you have this altercation at the party, to him walking home, disappearing, and then this person that he has the altercation with says that he saw him twice on the road.
Yeah. And that just that doesn't sit right with me. And I know that I had told you this, like, because I mean, people who know us know, but people who might be new to watching, like, that I love to just find out like itty bits of details about these cases, and then we talk about it, and I like tell you my thoughts and all this stuff just to see if like I can pick up on anything or if I can kind of maybe, I don't want to say guess, but pick up on anything that you might already know. And I did not know that that was the person he had the altercation with. And if you remember, I told you in our conversation that I had this weird feeling, like, and I am by no means like a professional or by for any of this, but I know when we were talking and like his picture and things like I kept seeing an altercation on the side of the road, and I kept seeing like a black two-door car. I think I said it looked kind of like a cougar, and in my mind, it was like they had, or he, or well, I feel there were two people in the car. I feel like there was one in the front and one in the back because it was like a setup almost. Um, and I kind of feel like they had stopped and was like, "Hey, do you need a ride? We can take you to wherever you're at." And that's why there was no skid marks, because it wasn't a hit and run. It wasn't like, I feel like that this poor kid Colin like willingly got in the car, not realizing what was going to happen. And that's just my personal
Yep,
feeling. Some of the things I was seeing when we were talking about it. And I mean, there's no evidence to any of this. This is just my personal
of
opinion.
course.
I
Well,
do. I think
it's
my
funny that you say that because it's one of the main working theories on forums and places such as Reddit where they have a missing persons
yeah.
subreddit and everything. That's one of the main working theories is this person, and I'm not I'm not going to name names. It's just
I know, and I have an idea of an initial because I know I texted that to you earlier.
you did, yeah.
Yeah,
But out of respect for the family and for
yeah.
an ongoing investigation, because this is still an open case, I won't name names. But this person, the working theory is that yeah, they saw him, they turned around after they drove by, came back, and my understanding of the working theory is that it was two people. It was this person and his cousin that were in the vehicle, and either they dragged him into that car or he got in willingly for whatever reason.
Hmm.
It unfortunately could have been for any reason.
But then I guess here's my question is, and and maybe that guy or those guys went to the police because first thing people say is if you're guilty, you're not going to you're going to try to stay out of the limelight. You're going to try to stay away from the police. Kind of look like you had nothing to do with it. So to not be suspicious, go to the police and say, "Oh, yeah, I was driving down this road at this time. I did see him walking. Um, dropped off somebody or picked somebody up. Turned and on the way back, I saw them again." That way, if your car is caught on any type of cameras or surveillance, that explains why your car was out there. That then can explain why you were on that road at that time that he went missing. Um, But was this person or this person and their cousin, were they ever investigated? Or was the car ever investigated? Crimes, like anything like that?
Well, here's where it gets twisty,
Oh,
even more.
my
If it wasn't
favorite.
already twisty. Now, I tried to verify the validity of this. It's mostly hearsay, but supposedly one of the police involved with the investigation
You tell me he's
is
related.
related to these two individuals.
That's sketchy.
Yeah, so I mean, if anybody has been, I mean, if even if you go and you look it up, Tupper Lake, not a big, it's not a big city. It's a small town. I couldn't offhand tell you what the population is, but I can tell you it's not very large. A lot of rural woods. So
Yeah, that map I looked at, I mean, I zoomed out for miles and there was a handful of houses and maybe a few businesses. And it wasn't even like real, I don't want to say real businesses, but it wasn't like a McDonald's and a Burger King. I think like one of them was like a lumber
right,
yard.
Yeah, it would be. It's like, and there's a lot of family-owned businesses there too,
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
little shops and things like that. So now, like I said, no, I haven't been able to verify it yet because obviously that would be probably tightly close-lipped. But supposedly, this one of the officers is related to these two individuals.
Now, see, in my opinion, again, which is not worth much apparently, I think that if there is a missing person or any type of case that could be considered foul play, because clearly his license and all that stuff, like he didn't just run away because there's
Correct.
no sign of him on any of the cameras, gas stations. He never passed the the police station that had cameras. So it's
Yep.
got to be some type of foul play, especially after they combed the woods. It wasn't a bear or any type of wildlife. And I know I had mentioned something about like water and
Yeah.
that map that I had pulled open, like even the lakes and rivers were a pretty good distance. He would have had to
Yeah. I
like
mean,
really hike. So
yeah,
I don't
you would have had to walk a good distance.
and that should be some type of conflict of interest. Like that police officer or detective or whoever should not have been allowed to be on that case. And those people
Yeah,
should have been investigated. Anybody who sees somebody live for the alive for the last time should be investigated.
you would think, right? So I found information, and I don't know how accurate this is, but I found a thread where supposedly someone from the party was on things, and they claim that these two kids came back to the party, and they were in a truck, and the truck had blood on it. Now they claim they hit a deer.
Was there damage to the truck? Because if you hit a deer enough to have blood on it, you hit that deer pretty. I almost said a bad word. Pretty hard.
Yeah. So the more I read these comments, I kind of got the idea that it could actually be legit because this person, whoever it was, seemed to know a lot about things at the party that you wouldn't know unless you were there.
Yeah,
Um,
but I feel like
so
if they came back and said that they hit a deer, there would be damage to the car. There wouldn't just be blood on it. And then again, that's just another thing. If you were the last person or last two people to see a missing person alive and there's blood on your car, why is the truck or car, whatever it is, not being taken into forensics?
yeah, I mean, I think it really goes back to the fact that why were these two never even questioned that I can find? Like
Yeah.
all they said, like, so the police did talk to him briefly, like, but all they said was, yeah, we saw him walking alongside the road. We drove by, and then we were coming back. We saw him again, and that was it. That's it. That was the extent of it. Granted, I mean, at that point, you don't really have evidence that they did anything
Right.
that we know about. So, really
And
got to kind of take them at their
everything,
word at that point.
yeah, everything could be considered circumstantial at that point. But I still
Correct.
feel like even like in any other case that I've heard of or researched or you can see on the ID channel, the person who is like the last person to see them alive or the last person to be around them, they're always heavily investigated. And maybe it is because it's a small town. Maybe the police didn't have the resources that they needed because you said it was in 2012. Um,
Yep.
Maybe they didn't have the resources, but I feel like that's no excuse, especially for Colin's family. Like they've gone all this time not knowing what happened. And, some of the things I did read just to talk about Colin is I heard that he was so incredibly intelligent that he like skipped a grade. So he was considered young for his grade. He actually, I think he skipped like 7th or 8th grade. Um, and he was going to college and he was doing really well and he was very friendly and kind and well liked and he seemed like a good kid, a good person. Um, and altercations happen, everybody gets into arguments, but it's just so weird to me that he gets
So
into an altercation. And I would love to know who started it. Like, did Colin start it or did these people start it? And then, when you get all angry and hot headed, like you do things that you probably shouldn't do or regret doing. And if he left and they were still angry and they went looking for him, depending on, and nobody knows what that altercation was about. No one came forward and said why.
there's just been like some rumors that were floating around. Like one was that it was over a girl,
Oh,
and that's just again hearsay through people at the party. Um, but even if it was, and not even that, whatever altercation happened, was it really worth hurting someone
right.
if they did? I mean,
And maybe it was, I mean, I'm not defending anybody, but it also could have been an accident. I mean, I hear all the
yeah,
time people, they get pushed to a certain point and they kind of get so angry they black out and then they don't
yeah.
realize what they're doing. Or, I've been to a bar where I've seen someone get pushed and they just punch and punch and punch and punch. And then they're like, oh, I'm sorry. And it's just like something takes over them. Not that that's an excuse. But
No,
I think
but I also wonder though if I mean, would I really want to say that that applies in this case? Because if you watched him leave and physically went after him,
yeah. But I
you're
mean, it's happened to the best of us.
it has. And I'm
I mean,
not saying it didn't, but
yeah.
to
Again,
drive by him supposedly twice and then,
yeah.
you know,
And so, and like I said, they didn't find any type of evidence of a hit and run or anything like that. And I do like, I know that a lot of the reports did say maybe it was a hit and run and he like rolled off into the woods. But I feel like with that, there would have been some type of like car debris in the road, or there would have been like a mark of him getting hit or blood or something. If he got hit hard enough to knock him unconscious, there would have been just something. And according to the police report, there was literally nothing but those two items. And I
yeah,
know that he had like an orange, I think it was like an orange backpack or an orange
yep,
jacket.
which they
And
still have not found.
yeah, and that's still missing too, which to me leads
That's
me
a
to
bright
believe
color.
it's very bright, and if you can't
Yep.
find it, that's intentional. Somebody's hiding it, or they disposed of it.
Yeah.
And I think with the wood, not with the woods, but like with the lakes and the rivers and things around there. I know that I had read that they did do like sonar and they did do um like searches within the bodies of water as well in case he did kind of get lost and stumbled and fell into water. But in New York, are your lakes and rivers still frozen in the beginning of March? I mean, I guess it would depend on the type of winter you had,
Yeah.
but
I mean, I don't know. I'd have to look up what the weather data was for the last couple weeks before. But
yeah,
I mean, there are times like we usually get the what we like to call here the February thaw, where we'll get a few warm days in February where things start to melt, and then it
yeah.
goes back to being cold. And like, but
But
I can
there's
tell you as of now, today
evidence.
is what March 27th, right?
Hmm.
And I can tell you that our river, Niagara River, is not frozen, but the
Okay.
lake is.
So it's still
So
possible, but there would still be evidence. Like
I
it's
I would
it's
agree.
yeah, it's literally like he vanished into thin air. And that's why I just feel like he had to have gotten into a car. Somebody had to have picked him up because if there were any other explanation, the police would have found something. Something.
That's my thought too. And I mean, if you
And,
get, let's say you get hit by a car.
yeah.
I mean, even if you rolled off the side of the road into the wooded area, they trudged those woods.
Right.
They
And
would
and
have found something.
and an animal is not going to devour everything in 24 hours.
No.
Because I think I read that his parents, like, they didn't really expect him to come home that night. And him not coming home was not out of the normal, so they didn't really think much of it. And then the next morning, they assumed he was sleeping in somewhere at a friend's house, so they weren't really worried. But it was like that afternoon to early evening is when his family was like, okay, something's not right. He's not called. He's not answering his phone. And that's when they started. So it really wasn't long enough for nature or for like animals to have done enough to make him completely disappear. And that's
Correct.
why
And I do.
somebody is involved. And
And
I
again,
think
like I said,
he knew the
that's
person, not a friend, but like an acquaintance. I know I keep using that word, but like he knew of
okay.
them.
Yep. And that is, like I said, the working theory. But I think what really helped, I don't want to say helped because, I mean, yeah, he is still missing, but such a quick response was definitely that older gentleman going to the police and saying he saw a kid walking on the road without a jacket on. I think that really helped because then when it came in and they realized, okay, that's the kid this gentleman saw, they knew right where to go to look.
Right.
To start looking. So
Well,
luckily, that helped in that regards.
Well, and from what I heard, or I keep saying here, like they told me, what I read is that from the time that that man had seen him walking, went to the police station, reported it, and then the cop went out. They said it was like a half hour to 45 minutes.
Yep.
So in
Yep.
that time frame, and that cop never saw him. So in that time frame, so half hour to 45 minutes is when he went missing.
Yep.
So that's why
That,
I think it has to be something of like, oh, hey, do you need a ride? Go ahead and get in.
I mean,
Or
that's not a huge time frame either.
it's not.
I mean, half hour, 45 minutes. I mean,
Hell,
if you were
we've been on for 33 minutes. So
right,
it's really not that long of a time.
plus if he was still walking along that street, that cop would have came in contact with him sooner.
Right.
And the other part of that is too, if it had been a hit and run. Now, I've never hit someone in a car, um, you know, um, but I have a feeling if it was a random person, they would have stopped and there would have been panic.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
you hit
Screaming.
someone. So
Yeah.
there would have been, to me at least, a lot more evidence on the side of the road of an accident of some type if he had been hit by a car.
Well, and even if it was somebody who, say, didn't have the best intentions, say they were planning on leaving, if they hit him and they left, he would have been there. He would have been there where the cop would have seen him. If they would have hit him and say threw his body in the car to try to cover it up, there still would have been something. Or I feel like in that time frame, the cop would have come up on this event happening. Because I've never hit anybody either, but like I feel like if you hit someone, you're like, you're in shock for a minute. That's going to take a few minutes. Then you get out, you assess what happened. You're like, oh crap. And then like trying to get this body up or make sure this person's alive. Like there's so many things that I just don't think they would have had the time to hit him, figure out what was going on, and then be like, oh, I got to hide this, put him in a car and drive away without the cop ever even coming across
Plus,
it.
I mean, depending on which way the cop came from and which way the car was traveling, there's also the possibility that they would have crossed paths. As far as I'm aware, the cop didn't come across anything driving that road.
Didn't even pass a car.
Yeah, and I mean, you're looking. So he was spotted by that gentleman at 1:45 a.m. So you're looking 2:15, 2:30 in the morning. So I mean, there's definitely not a lot of traffic at that time, especially in that area.
No, and I know too, like there was one person, because I had gone through like some chats and stuff of people talking about the case, and because it is still an open case and they are still looking for him. So if anybody does know anything or lives in that area,
Yep.
like reach out to the police, because it's still an active case. But I know that a couple people like in the chat I was reading was blaming that older man too, because they're like, oh, well, nobody saw him after this old man did. But then those two people came forward, and
Yep.
when they claimed to see him, it was after the time that the cop had already drove by and that guy had already reported it. Which is, I know, I know, it's so
Hmm.
like we're not cops or detectives, and it's just like
No.
I feel like everything keeps pointing to those two people, and they were never investigated. And I
Yeah.
just cannot believe that. And I mean, I don't want to like say they did it because again, it's all circumstantial, it's all personal opinion. Um, but there's just something weird about the case. People don't just vanish into thin air, as many
But
as of us,
yeah.
as many people that believe in aliens and things like that. Like I don't. And the
And
only thing I can think of is like maybe he was walking with his license and the bowl in his hand. Um,
and he
I,
dropped him as when he got grabbed.
yeah,
That's what I personally feel happened.
or they were like
Um,
in his pocket and he went to get in the car and they fell out.
yeah.
Um, I don't know. This case has really been bothering me just because it has been so long. It hasn't been solved, and there's like I feel bad for the police too because there really is no concrete evidence. And I know some people think, oh, he just wandered off into the woods and got lost, but they really combed it. Some people believe that he wandered off and fell into one of the rivers or one of the lakes. And I mean, I don't know that area, so I don't. I mean, I guess anything is possible, but I feel
There
like
wasn't really any
they
like,
would have found it with the sonar. I feel like.
or even that, like, I feel like I don't believe it was snowing that night. I can't fully recall though, but even if it had been a light snow, with how quick they were out there, relatively quickly searching, where would the footprints would have been there, or some type of sign that he had gone through the woods towards water.
Right.
You know,
Well,
I
and it clearly was muddy, you know.
yeah.
Um, I mean, if they said that they had seen just that little like slide mark, it was muddy, which
Mm-hmm.
means they would have at least had yeah, like you said, footprints.
Yeah,
Maybe not, no, but there would have been something.
yeah.
And
You would have seen more than just a little drag mark.
right. Well, and then here's another theory to throw it out there because I love to be devil's advocate.
Of
There was
course.
someone, there was somebody who did come forward and not come forward. That's a bad word because they didn't actually. It was all just something that they had thought is, you know, did he did all of this maybe not happen? Maybe something happened to him at the party or right outside the party. Are we sure? Because there's no cameras, there's no nothing. Did he make that walk? Was he that person on the road? Nobody can even confirm that he was that guy walking because the older man who reported it never mentioned an orange book bag. The only reason they think it was him is because he did mention that he it was a younger male walking with no coat.
Yeah,
His parents did confirm that he had left with a coat in hand but not wearing it.
correct.
But there are speculations like, did he even make it down that road to where it dead ends? Did he make that turn? Or is that all people just thinking?
So would
Because there's
that
a
have
couple
meant?
houses on the road. So could it have been somebody in the house and just the scenarios and the situations? I mean, he's still missing, but is there no evidence
Yeah,
because maybe it happened before and the license and the pipe were just thrown out the window by the person who did it previously?
I mean
Could
that
it?
is possible. It is. I mean,
And I don't know, I was not able to find anything about them investigating the party or the house. The
correct.
only thing I could find was that the altercation that happened, I could not find anything about who the altercation was with. And then what it had said is the altercation happened, and that's when his group of friends left, and he decided to stay. And his friends said that they had no idea why he stayed, but they did.
Yeah.
He did. And then someone had said that shortly after that, there was a second altercation that included him. And that's when somebody had called the cops, and they said that the party was actually broken up by the police. But when it was broken up by the police, he had already left. So here's my other thought is if this party is being broken up by the police, we clearly know that the police station is up that dead end road to the, to the right. How did if he had left and the party was broken up shortly after, minutes later, how did none of those cops pass him? And how did none of those cops, I mean, I feel like I was a cop and I was going to a call and I saw somebody walking, I may not think of anything, like I might not think about it right there in that moment, but then going back and finding out that there was a person at this party that went missing, I'd be like, oh, you know what? I saw someone walking. But none of the cops claimed to have seen anybody walking when they drove that exact route he was supposedly there.
I guess I'd want to know the exact time that they arrived at that party.
So when I looked it up, it said that the party was broken up at 2:45.
So that's about an hour after he was last seen.
Right.
So,
and I'm assuming those roads were kind of long. It's going to take a minute, but and I don't know what time he left the party, but so from the time he left till 2:45, we'll say 2:30, 2:45, I don't know. Somewhere in that 2 o'clock hour, the party was broken up. He walks a long distance. He turns. He's seen by an older man. He's seen by two people twice. And nothing from there.
Yep.
Like, I feel terrible for his family and for his mother. Like, I could not imagine going this long and having no answers. And I feel like they probably feel hopeless. Like, not that the police aren't trying, but I feel like there's so many different things that just don't make sense or they don't add up. And maybe they were investigated and it's just not public knowledge. But like,
I mean, that could be.
But as a mother, like, you got to give the family something. Like, I don't know. It's a sad case.
So this case is really what started my rabbit hole down into missing persons specifically. I mean, anyone who watches knows that what was that?
Did you hear that?
And I did.
Yeah,
someone smacked the wall or something.
It sounded like somebody knocked, and there's nothing like I could show you. There's literally like just a wall there. It just sounded like somebody knocked.
So what happened when you with us?
I was like, what was that?
So
if they're going to help us solve the case,
right? And anyone who knows me knows that we're very heavy into the film, and we do the shows. And one thing that this case actually started a project that if it has not come to fruition yet, but it has been something that I've been trying to develop for a while, and that is basically a show about missing people. So one of my ultimate goals that I would love to be able to do would be able to actually go out to Tupper Lake and speak with the family, because no one should go missing this day and age. I mean, even 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, no one should be missing. The fact that the 18-year-old at the time went missing with no sign of him, it not only makes me sad, but it also infuriates me, because it's just not something that should happen. So it has been a goal of mine to get out there and see if the family would speak to me and regarding it. So I'm hoping, it's
And maybe
only.
because I can't speak for them, but they might because, and people know we work together very closely when it comes to filming and episodes and things like that. And if they see any of your work, they know that you will do the family justice, you would do Colin justice, but also, it's what, 10, 12 years later, you're going to bring a new light to the case, and maybe somebody after all this time will have the courage to come forward and talk about it, or say, you know what, I was a kid back then, I was scared, but here's what I know. And even though it might not help bring Colin home per se, it will give the family closure. And I think it's so funny that you say you want to do a project like that, because I want to do a project. I already have a title, but I want to write a book. And I want to write a book, and I want to include all of the cases of missing children, missing people, and it gives people something to read, one, but again, it brings another light to the cases. And the case that I follow very closely is the Skelton brothers from Michigan. I interviewed their mother way early back when Realm of Darkness had first started, when it was back on WLTKDB radio, and I had their mother on, and she told us what had happened. And, she had 3 little boys who their dad claimed that he gave them to an underground sanctuary, and that they would come back out when they were 18. And that day has come and gone, and they're not out. And their dad's still in jail, but there's no bodies, no evidence, nothing has been found. And these poor kids have been missing for so long. And I still follow the case. I still follow their mom, and hoping that maybe one day they're found. But that's a case that is really close to me, that I watch all the time, and makes me want to write this book. And like I said, I have a title for it. As long as no one wants to steal it, I would tell you. But somebody will.
Yeah,
um,
don't tell me off the show.
yeah, I'll text it to you. But I do, and I wrote a whole intro about it, and I'll have to send you all that. But I think, I don't know. I think that's a good project, and I think, bringing light to these cases. And I mean, people go missing all the time, and it is really sad. And another thing that you could do is, there's a lot of
Heart.
minorities that go missing, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, for some reason, it seems like the minority cases don't make the public eye, like like Natalie Holloway was a huge case growing up, and
Yep.
she was a beautiful white girl. Gabby Petito, who we just covered, a beautiful white girl. And it's like, you have these cases of people that are missing that are Hispanic or Black or Asian, and they're just not getting the same.
You
They're not
never
getting
see
coverage.
you never see it in the news ever,
No,
and
and you
that's
really
just
don't
as.
hear. Well, and in Colin's case, you really don't hear about men go missing either.
Yeah,
I,
that's.
I cannot tell you the last time I heard of a big case on, with the media, where it was a man missing. And
I
men
can
go missing too, and
I
I
can
think
name one
those
offhand
have
that's
to.
pretty well known. Um, but that's going to be another episode because it has to do with a serial killer. So,
Yeah, well,
but
I
that's
mean,
centered around men missing. But really, besides that, and like Colin's case, there's just one other one that I really know about, which was based in Pennsylvania somewhere, which was another gentleman, an older gentleman that went missing, and the family has never found him. But again, yeah,
see, and how does that happen? I don't understand how someone goes missing and they're never found.
yeah. I mean, it's been 12, 13, almost 13. Well, it's been 13 years now. We are past March 11th, obviously. So it's been 13 years since Colin's been missing, and
And and
nothing.
and on the flip side, even though he has been missing that long, um, his family should never give up hope. Never.
No.
Until there is solidified evidence that he has passed, unless there's a body, unless there's something. Because, I live in Ohio, and one of the biggest cases were the 3 girls from Cleveland that went missing. And they were missing for 10
Yep.
years. 10 years. And they had gone. Amanda Berry is a perfect example. Her mom never stopped looking for her, and her mom went and talked to psychic mediums and all these people who had told her that she passed and she needed to let it go. And her mom never believed it. And unfortunately, her mom did pass away. But these three girls were found alive 10 years after being kidnapped.
Yeah.
So I know people say, oh, it's been 5 years, not let it go, but move on. It's been this long. And even with the Scouten brothers, I told them, I'm like, don't give up that hope. You never know. Nobody expected Amanda and Michelle and Regina to come home. None of them.
Yeah. I mean, it does happen for sure. Unfortunately, I think a lot go missing that are never found, far more than
Mm-hmm.
ones
Well,
that.
especially on the East Coast, I don't know how many people know this, but Ohio is a huge sex trafficking state because we have all the major interstates run through like Toledo and Cleveland, and in Ohio you can hit any major expressway, and unfortunately Ohio is up there with sex trafficking, and unfortunately people do go missing. They get put into the sex trafficking, and then it's a while before they're found, or if they are found, or they can break out or whatever. I don't know. And I think that's a little bit harder to think for men, because I don't know the statistics of men that go missing and found in sex trafficking, but either way, it doesn't matter. I don't think people should ever give up hope until there's like a solidified, like, hey, we found their remains, they are gone.
Yeah, I agree. And this is, like I said, this is a case that has been on my mind since 2012. I often go back to web sleuths because if anyone is interested in reading a lot more about it, if you go into web sleuths, you can find the missing person uh, thread for Colin. And most recently, within the last couple of years, I believe it's his brother that's been actually commenting in the thread, just giving some more background information and things like that. So you can read about it there. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of theories that people throw out there. His brother gives a bunch of information about, more about Colin and who he was. And
Yeah.
I would really love to see this case get some closure at some point. However, it has been 13 years now. So,
I mean, I hope the end of this case is that Colin comes home and is healthy as he can be, healthiest as he can be, I guess. And just that's what I want for his family. And he had siblings and he was a middle child, so I know that even after his parents, again, this is a long time down the road, but even after his parents are gone, I'm sure his siblings will continue to look for him as well. And I mean, I don't know if we have any viewers from New York or that area, but like I said earlier, if you know anything, it's still an open case. Call the police station. I mean, hell, even I think there's crime junkies. You can call them and give anonymous tips. Just
yeah.
anything that could possibly bring Colin home.
That's a great thing. That's for another, like, when we do more, we should put, like, for whatever state it's from, whatever their, like, confidential tip line is at the end.
Yeah, I think that's a great
So,
idea. Because the only one I
just,
can ever remember is Crime Junkies, and it's because I do love their podcast. As I'm going to plug them on ours. Um, but I love their podcast, and it's like a national thing where you can call for any state, any case, and give anonymous tips, and they look into them and they investigate them. Oh no, are you getting an idea? Are we gonna start? Are we gonna do project number like?
I mean, it's there's
We don't
ideas
have
to it in
sources
there.
for investigating. We do. I mean, we know a couple mediums that might be able to help, but
I mean, I know a couple. So
you know,
so
we know the OG. That's who you know.
so like so when I first had this idea for this show that I want to do, I did actually have a medium who wanted to work with me on it. So that is still a possibility. I would never, my hesitation on that is there are a lot of people out there that aren't really into the mediums, no offense to you, of course. Um, but, I'm just being honest when it comes to a lot of people, are very hesitant about it. So I think I would only approach that part if the family was okay with it.
Yeah,
Other
agreed.
than that,
And
it's just
you're right. There's also, I mean, if somebody's hair stands on end, they claim to be a medium. So, mediums are a dime a dozen. So you would really have to search to make sure you found a good, legitimate one. And at the end of the day, they're still human. They're still going to make mistakes. They're still going
of
to get
course.
facts wrong. I mean, I have seen, like, one of the ones that I love to watch, and I'm going to plug her too, is Tessa. I think Tessa Groff is incredible. And I have seen her do cases. And
She's
I mean,
done some.
it blows my mind how incredible
She
she is.
helps. She helps solve
But
the case.
yes, but not everybody is on that level. And Tessa
Correct.
has worked on her gifts for so long and she's absolutely incredible at it, but not everybody's at that level. And
Correct.
so people are going to get things wrong. And I think when you bring a medium into it, people see psychic medium and they're like, oh, what they say better be right, or they're considered a fake. So
Yeah, it
it's
doesn't
very
always work like that,
no, no,
But
it does not. Sometimes it just happens, and sometimes you
and I
don't even
think
know.
mainly, like, I really think just like the idea is just to keep the cases in public view
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day. I never want to see a case go cold to the point where you forget about it or it just
Right.
becomes a far distant memory because that's just not how these should be handled. I mean, yes, they're open. The police are working them, but even at that to that end, there's only so much they can do as well. But
Yeah.
at least for someone like myself and many others, we can keep them active in social media regards because that has become such a huge platform.
Yeah.
Um,
Just keeping
you
their
can,
name out there. I mean, I don't like you said. I don't know how many times I watch these shows, because we all know that I also am obsessed with the ID channel and all the different crime shows. Um,
always,
Always, it's always on. My husband says, "You just like to
always.
watch people die," and I'm like, "That's not the." I'm like, "It's not that I
No,
like to watch people die." I'm like, "It's the watching how it's investigated and watching like some of the bits and pieces that just turn the case around and like blow it open.
yep.
Like it's just so intriguing to me." But there's so many times at the end of it of unsolved cases where it's like just keeping their name out there, just keeping that out there, keeping it alive, keeping it going. It sometimes it triggers something. It triggers a memory. It triggers anything. I mean, anything can help.
or or it might give someone courage to come forward that never would have.
When it
You
might
know,
give, I mean, and it hopefully keeps that hope alive for the family. Like I feel like if I was looking for someone for 13 years and no one's listening to me, and it it start I don't want to say it starts to die down, but the newness of it,
yep.
it's kind of like when someone dies, everyone's all weeping and crying and calling you to make sure you're okay, and then 3 weeks later you're not hearing from anybody because the newness wears off and people get back to their lives and they forget even though you're still dealing with it. And just having people keep bringing it up even 13 years later, it might be like, okay, he's not forgotten, people are still thinking about him. And I don't know, it might keep that drive in the family still going.
Yeah, I mean that is a great point, and that to that end is what I exactly would try to do. It would be wanting to do as well, and there was a show on. Oh, I want to say it was Discovery for most of its life, but it was called Disappeared,
Oh
and it
yeah.
ran for a good chunk of seasons, and it just kind of died off. But that is kind of where I like the kind of format because it went into a lot of detail about things that happened, but it also really kept the name going.
Yeah.
They had at the end of each episode they had a thing saying, if you have any information, and it kept their face
Yeah.
right on there. So you're not just looking at a name, but you're looking at a face as well.
Yeah.
And now I think there is such a good avenue of ways to do this. For instance, like YouTube, because it is free, everybody has access to it.
Right.
It'd be a lot easier nowadays to keep these missing person cases up at the top instead of letting them just kind of fizzle out.
Right.
And
Yeah. And I hate to cut it short. Oh, hey Ryan, I saw that you posted on Facebook. Hello. Um, so I'm gonna tell on you first, and then we're gonna end the show since we've been at an hour. But another show that I'm obsessed with that I ended up texting to you and Nate was, and I'm gonna make fun of you guys. So
oh boy,
everyone watching, there's a show out. It's not new. It's new to me because I'm an old lady and live under a rock. But there's a show that's called Text Me When You Get Home. And I had messaged the guys. So I messaged our great old Tom and Nate, who was on the show, the last one. And I said, hey, I'm watching this show. It's great. I think you guys would like it. Text me when you get home. And I said, it's text me when you get home. And both of them are like, what? But we're messaging now and we're already home. So we don't understand what you want. And I'm like, oh my God, you guys are idiots. The show is called Text Me When You Get Home.
yeah, we were so lost. We had no idea what you were talking about.
I just love Nate's like, I've been home for hours. What do you mean? It's like that's
I will say this though.
so
Once
like,
once
no.
I got the name of the show and I went and put it on, I'm pretty sure we binge watched almost the whole thing already.
It's
Where
so
I mean,
good.
yeah, it is, and it is a good spotlight on women in general, and the things that they have to face when even just going out to
Yeah.
a bar or even a store at this point.
Well, and the thing I love about the show is normally when you watch these shows, you know that the person is dead. They're gone. They're dead. You watch the whole episode
Yeah,
about the investigation. But this show, yes, some of them have passed away, but there are some survivors. And then you get to hear the
I was
survivor story. And I am telling you, there's been a couple. Did you, not to give it away, and I know we're going over, but did you see the
shocked.
shooting in the when the walking of the
with
dog?
with
And
the
he got
girl in the got shot in the head. Yes, and she
Oh,
lived.
when she showed up at the end of the show, I was like, "What?" And I'm like,
Yeah,
I was like clapping because I was so
yeah.
excited that she had
It
survived.
was not the show I expected to have people survive just because of the name of it.
Well, and when they said she was shot in the back of the head, I'm like, "Oh my God, that poor girl," because she was
Yeah,
14. And
yeah.
then when she popped up on the screen to tell her story and from her point of view, I was like, I'm hooked. I am absolutely hooked to this show. So that's the other good thing is this show does sometimes have, I don't want to say a happy ending, but they do have happy endings. Not
And,
everybody dies. Not everybody is still missing. You do get to see some survivors and you get to hear from their point of view what they went through, how they got through it, how they escaped, all of this stuff, and listening to their bravery and some of the things that they've done is just incredible. Um, but with that, we are over on time because we could talk true crime all the time and for
yeah,
hours.
there.
But
I do want to say one last thing before we go though, and that's just that if um, anyone wants any more information on Colin or wants to talk about the case, feel free to reach out to either of us. Um, I I could go on all night about it, and any information you want, we can discuss the case and anything like that.
yeah, and we can point you in the right direction of the articles that we found to be legitimate versus ones that are kind of just people wanting to get involved. Um, but I know next week I'm excited too because Tom has another great case that he wants to talk about. So
I do.
that was a fun one. Are you being sarcastic? You told me about it.
Oh,
Anyhow,
I told you about a lot. Now I'm confused on which one you're talking about.
well, you'll have to look at our chat. It's in there.
I guess so.
But
Because
thanks
now
for
I'm
hanging
at a loss.
but thanks for hanging out with us for the last hour. Do want to let you guys know we have an investigation this weekend. We are going to the State House in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and that's cool.
What just happened?
You went like this, and it made
How did I know I did like this? We'll try it again. Anyone? Come on. No?
But we will be in Fort Wayne. We plan on going live a little bit, so you'll get to see the investigation. You'll get to see a little bit behind the scenes. So keep tabs on us on Saturday because we're going to be traveling, and I'm going to be stuck with the guys. So keep me
In a
company.
very small cramped space.
Yeah. So
For
hopefully
7
we'll
hours.
see you guys Saturday. If not, we'll see you next week. And everyone have a wonderful and lovely night. Bye-bye.
Bye.